And welcome to Poppy's Workshop. It's been a moment, or they say it's been a minute since I've last been recording. The last year's been quite eventful. Besides the technical difficulties of trying to video things, earlier in 2025, wound up having surgery on my right arm, and it took a while to heal. And then I had a couple setbacks more later in the year, but then wound up getting a couple bouts of hives, allergic to medication. I wound up getting lung infections. It was a miserable year. Now, I don't know, you really can't see it as much. Let's see. Trying to get the back of my hands. I now have vitiligo, which is another autoimmune problem that I have. So needless to say, it's been a challenging year. I've been on the scroll saw doing things on and off. I've been in the garden. I've built a couple greenhouses, one large one, a couple small ones as I was trying to move things up. But just trying to keep busy. But I'm trying to get back into things. So this is really just a test of recording video again and whether I really want to continue to do it or not. A lot of people are encouraging me, but I don't know. We'll see. So anyway, let's take a look at what I am working on right now. This is a Sume design, and it is a door topper. So as you can see through this angle here, that's going to sit on top of a door and be a decoration for Easter, or it doesn't necessarily have to be just for Easter in this particular case. I do like Sume designs. They are quite intricate for most, if not all, of her work. And so they are technically challenging. Now, of course, I prefer to make myself be challenged even more. So a lot of people will look at this, and let me turn that back. They'll look at this and say, oh, geez, this is really easy. Just use a spiral blade. I hate spiral blades, I really do, because they chew up the wood. It's not a very smooth finish, and for me at least, they're more difficult to control. I like to be very exact on my lines, as close as possible. I like to have very smooth finish inside. And that's just a personal preference. So for me, I am using a number 1 Flying Dutchman Ultra Reverse. The wood, let's see, I don't know if we can see it here. Up here. This is a dark walnut. It is 1/2 inch. Most people will use 1/8 or 1/4 inch wood. I like it to be thicker for many reasons, but to me, I want my wood to have some heft to it. I don't want it flimsy. I don't want it easy to break, especially when you get into finer details that you see up here. So what I'm doing right now is I used not a super large drill bit. I forgot what hole size this is. And I did most of the larger cuts here. I drilled them out for the pierce cutting. And I will go back with a much thinner drill bit for these. Let's see, let me get that up there. Where's my pointy thing? We're back to that. Okay, so there's a lot of smaller details up here for the crown of thorns. So I'm going to go back after I complete these and I'm going to drill those smaller ones out and continue with the number 1 blade. So that's one that I'm working on right now for an Easter piece. Let me bring out another one here. I'm not going to play with the zoom because when I played with the zoom, it wound up messing up and locking the video on me. So here's the other door topper that I'll be working on. It'll be a church, pretty much a church in the woods. Reminds me of a small church I helped build in Bath, New York, many, many years ago. But instead of a cross here, we had small stained glass done by a local woman that was bread and grapes. The name of the church was Harvest Baptist. It was in the winery region of New York. So we had that stained glass done. Somebody did it as a gift, which was really, really cool. So this is the next piece that I'll be doing. It is made out of black limba. This is kind of rough on the back, so I'll be sanding this quite well, but the front side is very smooth. This is one of my quote-unquote scrap pieces that I got. And what I do, you can probably just barely see it. I use a clear shelf liner, and then I will use the, what is it, the 77 glue, 3M 77 glue on the back of the paper. Stick it on, very permanent, but then with the shelf liner, it peels off very easily. So that's how I do fasten a lot of my pieces, the same way I did this one here. Now I'm going to try and do some cuts. I'm going to bring my magnifying glass in. You can just see it in the image here. Actually, let me do this. So I've just been going down the line, drilling the holes. And as I said, this is a number 1, and I am going to attempt to do this without the vacuum on. That's what this is. I have a top and a bottom vac, and it can be quite noisy. So I'm going to do this. I didn't turn my Christmas lights on. Usually I do. And if you remember from a year ago, all right, what did I do with that? Man, I would forget my head if it's unscrewed. Okay, let me get my pointer back out. So my preference is to keep the scrap or the what do you want to call it? The waste area to the right of my blade. I find, at least in my technique and with the Flying Dutchman, if the blade drifts, it tends to drift to the right. So if it does drift, it'll drift into scrap wood. Do I cut with the scrap on the left? Of course I do, depending on the type of cut and how quickly I want to do things. But in this case, I'm going to try and keep it to the right on most of my cuts. Ooh, look at that. There's a piece I cut out the other day. His eyeball right there didn't get sucked up all the way when I had the vacuum on. Okay, so I use a foot pedal when I cut. Now with the number 1 blade, of course, you can make much sharper cuts without having to nibble as much. Now, back to the, wait a second. Gotta pay attention here. This is gonna be tight. There we go. Now back to the spiral blade. Spiral blade would make this, in some aspects, much easier. I'm going to go revisit those 2 corners after I get a piece cut out here. Here we go. So I'm going to revisit this corner here. And then there's this little cutout right here. Little detail, and I think I'll just clean this up a little bit. Did I have to do that? No, because this is abstract. So truthfully, I don't have to stay on the line as faithful as I usually do, but I like to have things as close to the designer's vision. But if I miss, am I going to be upset? No, because it's not super critical. All right. And I'm just going to take a look. I'll get that out of the way. I think you can see me cutting. Yeah, you can see me cutting okay. So here I wasn't exactly on the line, but I don't mind that. I think overall that particular cut looks pretty good. All right. So I am using the Pegasus scroll saw. This is the 30-inch. Oops. In some aspects, wait a second, I can't see what I'm doing here. There we go. I'm bending my blade. In some aspects, I kind of wish I got their 21-inch instead. 30 is really big. So I don't do a lot of big pieces. My stuff are really small. It's usually, I think, 8 to 12 inches thick, wide, and maybe a foot, 18 inches tops. Really, is how big I prefer to go. I don't do a lot of big, but if I remember when I bought this, what was it, 2 summers ago? I think it was 2 summers ago. Wait a second, let me make that turn. There we go. When I bought this 2 summers ago, they were able to ship it, I think, if it wasn't that day, the next day, and I had it within 2 days. Their 21-inch was out of stock, and I was in a bit of a pickle as I was having trouble with my Excalibur. For some reason, all of a sudden, it just started not staying on lines. No matter what I did, it would drift, and then I couldn't get a perpendicular cut. So something was going on, and I replaced the chuck, I replaced bearings, I tightened them up. I did all kinds of things. I think I finally got it working long after the Pegasus came in. So it's been sitting on a shelf in storage in my workshop. I may use it if I have someone come or if I decide to do some public displays of scroll sawing. I'm not sure. But that's where my laziness comes in. I just find it to be too much of a bother to try and sell it right now. So I'm just trying to follow the line, and as you can see, I do have to move the wood quite a bit with a flat blade. But I just like the results. I'm off a little bit, but I will revisit that. As you can see, back to my original statement of drifting to the right, it went into the waist area, so I wasn't overly concerned with the accuracy. Now, possibility I could go to a little bit smaller blade and be able to handle these twisty-turnies much better, because walnut's not a super hard wood. It's actually a very easy wood to work with. Pay attention here. Okay, almost done with this cut, and then I'll clean it up. There we go. Get my hand in a better position. There we go. Let me see if I can knock that out. Yeah. There we go. Okay, I'm going to clean up a couple corners here. Actually, I didn't go as far off as I thought, but I want to open that up a little bit. Now, I've started making my own patterns. I had posted a blog post on my website, poppysworkshop.org. I probably don't need to do that, but I want more shape. Yeah, I don't think that's too bad. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, I think overall that came out very well. So I started doing my own designs, and I do take other people's designs and I'll put it in Photoshop so that I do, let me get that in so you can see it. Dirty. There we go. So what I wind up doing is I use a trace function so that I can trace out 1-point lines, and then I do make solid magenta lines, and then I will shade in what does not need to be cut, and that's a very, I think it's a 10% opacity on that particular shading. I just find it easier to see. My old eyes, as I've called it in the past. This blade's doing pretty good, even though I'm bending the cahooties out of it. Get that back into place. Okay. By having a 1-point line, if you stay within half a point, nobody, especially when you're doing critical, nobody will be able to tell that you made a quote-unquote error. So where I find it to be very critical, let me pay attention, and I'm gonna do something a little bit different here to turn around. There we go. So I'm going to make a little room for myself to spin my blade. So on straight lines, for example, here, I will work really hard to stay within less than half a point of that line. I mean, my goal is to nail that line. What was nice is, when was it? Last year? I think it was last year. I did a very detailed piece out of bloodwood of all things, which is a very hard wood. And it was hearts within hearts within hearts with some lovebirds and everything. It was a gift for my sister. And her husband thought that I did it on a laser. And I'm like, oh, no, monsieur. This was by hand. And he didn't understand what pierce cutting was all about. He's like, well, how do you get the blade in there? Because he was thinking bandsaw. Because he does cabinetry and does beautiful cabinetry type work. He's actually working, I think, for a guy who does something with guitars, guitar accessories or something. I forgot. Multiple things. But he, for the longest time, would not believe me But luckily, I have done a video, short video, of me working on my sister's gift and showing exactly how, like I'm doing now, how I do the close-in details. So it's kind of funny where he was just stunned by it. So, fun times. So one thing you'll notice is that I do not go very fast. Kind of like my shooting is slow as smooth, smooth as fast. I go over, my goal is accuracy over speed. I'm not a production shop. And when I do detailed artwork, or really anything, I want it to be as accurate as possible. Plus, when I'm doing this, usually I have my headphones on. You know, I have noise-canceling headphones because I do have the vacuums going, sometimes plural. Let's see, I'm going to do this slow. There we go. You can hear it kind of click into place. And I'm listening to music most of the time, so it gets pretty cathartic. I get into the quote-unquote zone. Wait a second, I see a little scrap in there. It gets really cathartic, meditative, because actually this piece has a lot of meaning to me. You know, if you look at, wait a second, I think that piece is stuck in there. There we go, see? Without the vacuums, a lot of pieces get stuck. So I do a lot by feel, so I can feel when a piece didn't drop out all the way. But if you are familiar with Scripture, there's one about how he was pierced for our transgressions. So here I'm doing pierced cuttings, and that Scripture comes to mind. So when I'm cutting nice and slow, oops, I'm off a little bit, talking too much. Get that up. Come on, baby. There we go. I tend to get into a contemplative state, a meditative state. Think about things in general. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, let me turn that a little bit so you can see where I am at. And there we go. I'm going to continue on, finish that up, get a few more. So I'm only working a couple hours a day in the workshop. It's actually pretty cool in here right now. I have a heater at my feet, and I'm still kind of cold. So there we go. That is the end of this video, and this is kind of my test of getting back into YouTubing, I guess, and hopefully you like watching a little bit. You know, I'm going to try and be as quiet as possible so you're not listening to the chatter of my vacuums and everything like that. So, with that, may the Lord richly bless you and make it a great day right here at Poppy's Workshop.